Namaste everyone and welcome to this full moon session. Tonight we will talk about the myths of spirituality and then followed by the meditation and the blessings for manifesting our wishes and projects. So before we start, let us ask for divine blessings to the divine supreme God, the divine Father, divine Mother, to all the holy masters, holy gurus, holy saints of all traditions, all the holy masters, angels, spiritual helpers, to the beings of light, and all the great ones. We thank you for your divine guidance, help, healing, protection, and mercy. Thank you for blessing us with divine love, divine oneness. Thank you for being with us throughout this session, guiding us, helping us to understand, blessing us with a open mind, a learning mind, a discriminating mind, a discerning mind. Thank you for blessing us with mental flexibility. Thank you for this opportunity. With thanks and in full faith, we thank you. So, just a few days ago, we were having a conversation in one of our groups with some of our students, and we were talking about what spirituality is. And it was a very interesting conversation. So, which also, made me think then, we looked at that from one perspective, but then is there more to it? And perhaps one way to understand what a subject is or a topic is to understand what it is not. And by peeling off one by one those layers of understanding, by peeling off what something is not, we may reveal or we may get closer to the truth of what it is. And hence the selection of this topic today. Also, I think we've been meaning to talk about this for some time, but in the last 1.5 years, this kind of became a very frequently used word. We happen to observe that many people became so-called spiritual, or they turned to spirituality. But then, is it just about chanting God's name? Is it just being fearful of that entity because we can't do anything? Is that being spiritual? Or what is it is? So let us, take a deeper dive into it so that we can properly understand this, right? So now, to start with, by the way, I'm going to use one of the very beautiful books, or rather booklet, which is a compilation of different teachings from Master Choa Kok Sui. The book called Creative Transformation, very beautiful compilation of the various sutras, the teachings on spirituality itself, the whole spiritual development. So this will be the base of our conversation. And then, or rather I would say, to explain what actually spirituality is, at least the way the teacher expects us to understand. Okay. There is another beautiful booklet, which is called Experiencing Being, which is again a very, very beautiful compilation of the sutras. This is much more practical application in every day's life that we have. So maybe we'll pick some of the things from here as well, but mainly we'll pick some of the things from creative transformation. So let's see what is the first myth here. The first myth that I want to touch upon is, where people talk about spirituality. They talk. Now we should change the world. We should be this. We should be that. But when it comes to manifesting it or doing something about it, you ask them, hey, come on, let's go out and let's make this change in the world. Guess what? They disappear. So no action takes place. So they may have something called goodwill, but the will to do good is perhaps missing. So now the first sutra I would like to read, which is related to the whole application of spirituality in our life, is spirituality is a way of life. It is not just doing meditation. Let me read a couple of other sutras just to put them together, and then we'll explain it more. People on the spiritual path are not anemic. They must be sharp, strong, and courageous. Being spiritual means being powerful, dynamic, and intelligent. Actually, it's very interesting the way Master has used the word anemic, while it could be just a simple analogy to the physical aspect of it. When somebody is anemic, how that person is very weak and things like that. But is there a deeper meaning behind this phrase or this word? Maybe there is. We'll talk about it briefly. There is another one here which says, spiritual practitioners or disciples should have their hands reaching out to heaven, but their feet should be firmly rooted to the earth. In spite of their spirituality, they must maintain their practicality. They must be able to produce physical results. So spirituality is essentially connected with practicality. You cannot just keep on talking about something, but you really have to manifest your good talk into something physical, because of which many people can benefit. And the beauty of the thing is that what may be impossible for many people could be possible for you, for the people who are on the spiritual path. What cannot be done by the ordinary people can be done by you. Why? Because of the spiritual connection that you may have with your guru, with your purpose. So the purpose really drives you. When you have a clarity of your purpose, your goal, your target, real clarity, and you have the blessings and the grace of something beyond, then it really drives you. So having a strong spiritual connection is something which helps you to propel. So which means, to put this particular myth in its perspective, how do we make our spirituality practical? Now, one of the things or one of the examples I mentioned a few days ago again in that group of students was about how the traffic, when we would go on the road and drive the car bumper to bumper, how traffic itself could be a spiritual teacher. Why? Because, say, for example, it helps you to practice tolerance, patience, maybe a bit of a compassion to let the person who is really in a hurry, maybe perhaps there is something really pressing for that person to overtake and reach somewhere. Maybe he really needs to reach somewhere fast. So having that compassion for the ambulance or for the police jeep, these are all opportunities, right? And of course, this is just one scenario, but there could be endless opportunities where you can really physicalize the spirituality. Now, what is spirituality? Again, we are going to slowly uncover, and when you look at it at the end, you will be able to understand what is this physicalizing of spirituality is. Okay, so the first myth, it is not about talking, it is not about just having the goodwill, but having the will to do good, being able to put it in use. Unless you do that, it is really up in the air. The teachings are, as one of the senior disciples said, the teachings are dead if you cannot physicalize them. Very interesting statement. Okay, right. The next one is just maybe an extension of it, is knowledge versus wisdom. There are some people who are very, very, studious. They have tremendous knowledge of, I don't know, various scriptures or Vedas and the Gita or the Bibles and whatever else you can find on the earth to study. And when you talk to them, they will start quoting this quotation from there, that quotation from there, left, right, center, whatever. And they will pretend, oh, well, you know what, I know a lot of stuff. Guess what? It just shows they have good memory. That's all it is. Because spiritual development is connected with knowing, remembering, practicing, and mastering the virtues. You may know some scriptures, you may remember, and you are able to reproduce it. But if you cannot, again, going back to the first myth, if you cannot physicalize it in your daily life, then you are just having a demonstration of good memory. That's all it is. For some people, it will look like on the face, but don't have any pride about knowing a lot of things. You may know only a little, maybe just a little, but if you can really manifest that goodness within you, if you can really master something, it could be a smaller portion, but if you can really master a teaching, then you have really converted your knowledge, your information into wisdom. One of the ways to acquire wisdom is by making a lot of mistakes. Some people, they feel, hey, you know what, they can't make a mistake. Oh no, I'm mistake proof. Guess what? They learn the least, because it is a manifestation of pride. Pride is something which puts a blind in front of the eyes to say, I know everything. I don't need to learn more. I don't need to look deeper. I know everything. And when the moment a disciple, especially people on the spiritual path, when they have the moment they have pride, their downfall has begun. Master always used to say, one of the last weaknesses to go is pride, and yet it is most important one, because it disconnects you from the teacher. Once you're disconnected from the teacher, there is no hope. It may take many, many incarnations before you may be reconnected back with the teacher. So this is something which, we need to keep in mind, that there's nothing to be proud of when you know a lot of things. You may be knowing a lot of things, but if you cannot physicalize it in your daily life, then teaching is dead. Okay, and that information, that knowledge is, from one level of perspective, useless. Right? It may come in handy, I don't know when, but today, useless. Okay. Let's look at the third one. The third one, and this is a very interesting one. One of the biggest myths, and this is one of the biggest ones, is that when you're on a spiritual path, your life is going to be very easy, super smooth, silk, butter. It may not be true all the time, but let us understand what is the meaning. In fact, people on the spiritual path, in different cultures, there is a different phrase, but in India, there's a phrase which says that, or the way to express the spiritual path is like walking, and by the way, this is probably a little painful to hear or to think of it. A spiritual path is like walking on razor edge. It's very, very sharp. One of the similes I came to, just came to my mind was when we were children, we sometimes we would go to some, that market area or that open area where there is some mela or that fete going on. And there would be this guy who would put two bamboos on each side, a rope, and then he would climb on that thing and then hold a stick or something and then try to walk on that tight rope, on a single rope. Now that you make a slightest mistake, you're off, you're down, finished, right? That is a beautiful example of how spiritual life is. While the phrase easy does not mean that everything will become rosy, but what may simply it mean that whenever situations would arise, you would be able to find the answers easily. You would have the inner strength and courage and the wisdom to look at it objectively and then take the right action. So, like, for example, one of the quotations, again, I would read here is that, and just to put things in perspective here, sometimes the spiritual path is lonely. Your spiritual progress depends on your clarity of thought and sharpness of mind. Do not get stuck. Do not freeze. Keep on moving. Now, this is amazing. Path is lonely. Well, you may have a group of like-minded people. We can talk, we can share. We may have our spiritual buddies. We may have our mentors and the teachers and so on. And yet it is amazing that spiritual path is lonely, because every single individual, every single soul has a very, very unique lesson to learn in every single lifetime. Everybody will have a different test. There are no same set of questions for anybody. Each soul will be tested differently. To do what? Not to fail really, but to give the opportunity to develop the spiritual muscles, to develop that strength, that courage. And that's why there is this beautiful another statement or another sutra which says, where is that? Let me find this. This is very beautiful. You have to be courageous on the spiritual path. Trust the higher beings, because there will be situations where life will become difficult, or it may appear difficult. Make no mistake here. Like we said earlier, being spiritual does not mean suddenly all your problems will vanish. But what will vanish is your worry, your anxiety, your obscurity in front of your mind, that darkness. Because as you become more spiritual, as you help others to also grow, as you help bring light in the life of others, you are also guided on the path. You will always be shown the light. Always. When you bless others, like in Twin Hearts meditation, when you bless others with hope, you are filled with hope. When you bless others with faith, with forgiveness, with joy, with light, with love, you are in turn filled with all these things, and that becomes your guiding post, your guiding light. So spiritual path is not really a path of roses, essentially. It has its own so-called thorns. But remember, it does not mean that it is there to really really pin you down. No. They will always, if your connection is strong, you will always find that grace, that strength, that courage within you to see the answers. That is really being spiritual, that you will always have the light shining on you. This is at least a personal experience of it. And by the way, all of us go through tests. Like I said, no two souls have the same tests. We may look like similar tests, but each soul has to go through its own tests. Okay. Right. Another one, another myth. This is very interesting again, because this is where most spiritual disciples make mistake. Not really mistake, but at least they feel hurt, because as Master says, people on the spiritual path are often naive. they expect, or they imagine that everybody follows the virtues, everybody practices character building, everybody is going to be nice. Because I am nice, I expect everybody to be nice. But guess what? Not everyone practices the virtue or character building. Do not expect other people to live by your standards. Remember, not everyone is like you. This is amazing, because every single day we may meet some people who feel like, wow, come on, this is pain in the neck, or, you know, I wish I did not meet you, or something like that, right? Or, you know, you may feel that this person is out there to hurt you, or something of that sort. But one reason, or one of the things we have to remember is, while we may be trying to consciously develop to practice the virtues, to really you know, peel off our weaknesses, but not everybody is doing that, at least not now. Maybe in due course of time they will do it, but today it is not the case. So keep that in mind. And there is a reason behind sometimes why something like this may happen, because again another quote I will read here. It says, sometimes you are insulted. Sometimes you are insulted. The pain causes you to improve and develop. Be calm. Do not react. Now this is the important line. Listen and listen carefully. You will be tested again and again till you get it right. Now, this is one of the most important teachings here, because according to at least personal understanding of what spirituality is, learning the lessons in our life, because that is tied with the law of evolution. Learning the lesson is equal to, or it can be labeled as, law of evolution. Till the time we learn our lessons, we keep in that loop. Sometimes you will say, hey, okay, you know what, I've learned the lesson, but something similar happens again, and then you wonder, what did I not learn? Then you feel, okay, maybe I've learned something about it. Next time something similar happens, but maybe much lesser degree possible, which means there is something still there. Sometimes, and when you have really learned the lesson, that chain breaks, and that's the whole beauty of it. And that's where the biggest hope lies. When the lesson is learned, when the karmic condition is finished, it is finished. That is the law. It is not the opinion of the lords of karma or us. It is the law. It is very, very exact mathematics. A mathematics that we today cannot understand. But when the condition is finished, it is finished. This is the law. Learning the lessons ahead of time. There are two ways we can learn lesson. Life teaches us lessons by knocking on the head. One time Master explained that when we do not learn the lesson, now listen carefully, this may sound a bit painful, but sometimes it has to be given directly. One time he explained that if you do not learn the right lessons, something painful will happen that will break your preconceived ideas, calcified ideas, and belief systems. Then the veil of illusion will be removed. Then you have learned the lesson and progressed. But without that, it's the same endless loop. So do not be naive. Number one, be generous. Now this is related with aspect of generosity. How it is related to generosity? You are giving the other person time to evolve at their own pace. This is generosity with time. You may be evolving fast, possible, because maybe, I don't know, you are practicing in reflection every day, or you're practicing your meditation on twin hearts every day, or whatever else, your blue triangles and so many other beautiful teachings of master, but not everybody else. Some people really learn by falling down. That is one way of learning. Another way of learning the lessons is from someone who has been there, done that. That's where master says, spiritual path is more complicated than Amazon jungle. Follow the advice of the teacher to avoid getting hurt. So if you want to reach to a destination, what is the easiest and the best way to do it? You talk to someone who is coming back from there. That person will be able to tell you, hey, you know what? Don't take this detour. There is a problem, there's a traffic jam or whatever, and the road is broken or something. Go this way, that way, do this, don't do that. That way you are able to navigate and reach there faster, if not faster, at least more comfortably, and so on. So you decide whether you want to learn by the hard knock of life on your head, or you consciously make an effort to really learn the lesson behind everything that happens to all of us. Right? So that is another thing we should remember. Okay, that was the fourth. Another one. We'll spend a few more minutes to talk about a few more. I've listed a few. I don't know whether we'll have time to go through all of them. But another one is concerned when a spiritual disciple is just concerned for himself or herself, only interested in self. In fact, so the way master explained it is, and I will just read those lines. To be only interested in yourself is spiritual selfishness. You are not karmically entitled to develop unless you help others develop. You may reach the mountaintop, but you will find yourself lonely. And the joy comes only when you feel, guess what? I have reached there, but I have probably brought 10 people along with me. And look at the example of Lord Buddha. I mean, I think this has been an often quoted example. When apparently, and again, we're just putting you, I have not met him, but when he reached the gate of Nirvana, he said, I will not enter this gate until the last living being has also passed through this gate. I will wait until then at the gate. It is easy just to say, okay, you know what, let me liberate. I don't care about anybody else. I'll meditate, turn blue, and vanish. But the pranic healing and Arhatic Yoga is a path, is a lineage of mercy and compassion. We choose to come back. The very purpose of us being here is to serve. So to be only concerned and think about yourself, as long as I am fine, I don't care about others, guess what? Selfishness. So that is another thing that's very, very important. That's why every opportunity you can find or even generate to help people, to heal someone, you have learned healing. How many of us do healing every day or every week? How many of us talk about twin hearts to our friends, colleagues, family members, and strangers and whatnot? How many of us really serve when there is a need? We may be reading many things, this happening, that happening in the world, but what are we doing about it? I don't care, you know what, let me just be spiritual. Okay, let me meditate. Spirituality is not just meditating alone. You may claim all the victory sitting in a cave. Oh, I have become spiritual, I am enlightened. But the real test of your spirituality is when you really go out in the jungle and face a beast. What is the beast? The beast is the trials of life. That's when the real test is. You pass the test, you evolve. You fail the test, you appear again and again. So something like that. Okay. What else? Is there more? Yeah. Okay. There is one very important one. Very, very important. Again, this is because many people get stuck here. They feel that because their consciousness is so delicate and so sensitive that the moment they make a mistake, they feel that they are the worst people on the earth. They say being spiritual means I cannot make a mistake. I am then the person or the disciple becomes too remorseful. Too remorseful. Now, please understand that, let's say if you take a stick and if you keep beating yourself, let's say you keep putting the stick on your leg, guess what will happen? You will have a wound or maybe a broken bone. If that happens, what do you need? A plaster or a crutch to stand on. That crutch manifests as pride, psychological pride. You may have seen some people who are bullies. Have you seen some people like that? These kind of people are actually internally very weak. They do not have good self-esteem at all, but they want to hide it. For the outer world, they want to show as if they are in charge, and that then they start bullying and doing all of that. But thinking of ourselves in our perspective, if you're too sensitive about making mistakes, what you meditate on, you become. So if you keep on thinking, hey, oh, I made a mistake, oh, I made a mistake, I'm such a bad, you are energizing that thought that I am the worst person on the planet or whatever. Then that is what more, manifests. So the way to understand this is that Master says that growing implies process and time. And process implies a lot of mistakes. Do not be too hard on yourself. He could have said, don't be hard on yourself at all. Forget about it or ignore it. No, he said too hard, which means have a little remorse, because without that awareness, of that mistake that we've made, you will never want to change because you feel I'm always right. So yes, have that little bit of trigger to say, oh, okay, I made a mistake, fair enough. What can I do about it? And that's where the daily practice of reflections and erasing of those tendencies and the blue triangles and many other techniques that you have learned in pranic healing and Arahatic yoga comes into picture. Do not make a big fuss when you make a mistake. Keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. The reason, and I think we have had many such students who, at least to me, they have called up and said this, that, and crying and oh, I'm this, I'm that. My only advice is same thing. In a way, I mean, it may sound a bit harsh or rude sometimes, but sometimes some people are too full of themselves. One time, Master explained, he was sharing one of the examples or the stories. So there was a student who was, given all these techniques and stuff, and Master told him, hey, you should practice, reflection and everything. Fair enough. So this guy started doing it, and year after year, this guy became worse. So Master got surprised and said, what is happening here? So he called this person. He asked, what are you doing? I'm practicing inner reflection every day, Master. And then he asked more. And then he revealed that, I have been practicing only the inner reflection only on the mistakes that I'm making. So this guy was only looking at the mistakes and the bad things. Let's say in the whole day, you have 24 hours, right? Maybe this guy was doing 5 things in the day that were bad, but he forgot that he was doing 20 other things that were good. So master said, you are not doing that? No, master, I thought inner reflection meant looking at mistakes only. So master said, no, no, no. You have to appreciate your good qualities. You have to appreciate your strengths, your virtues. Okay. And also then look at your mistakes, erase them. That way you are balanced. If not, your development will be lopsided. You will keep chopping yourself psychologically speaking, and you will get imbalanced about it. Then you will not be developing, you will be retrogressing. So remember this. Maybe we'll just touch upon one more. There are a few I've listed, like I said. We'll just give you some of these, hints and ideas. Maybe we can reflect on it, and some other time we can discuss in our different interactions and conversations. But one of the another important one is this is perhaps the summary of all in a way, so to speak, and there are many in between. But one of the myths is about spirituality is that it can wait. It is for the old people, like the old tradition where people would take sannyasam, and then only when they are, in that phase of life, that is when they think about spirituality and all of that. But that's one of the biggest myths. Like we said in the beginning of that was the first thing, right? Spirituality is a way of life. It doesn't matter what stage of life you are in. The teachings given to you are permanent. Remember this. When you die, again, I'm just quoting Master's quotation here. When you die, when your physical body dies, what you can take with you is your spiritual development only. But whether we like it or not, most people, they spend most of their lifetime in accumulating things which can remain only in the physical plane, forgetting about the real treasure, the spiritual muscles that people can carry. And if you're joining us a couple of weeks later in our session on rebirth and 3 deaths, we'll elaborate more on this, how it really works. What is that whole inner mechanism behind it? And if you're really looking for a much easier life, much more peaceful life, much more prosperous life, much more healthier life, healthier relationships, you must take charge of your spiritual development now, not 5 years later, not 10 years later, not when you get tired, or sorry, not tired, retired, or when you are free from your job, or because spirituality manifests in every moment. Every single moment is an opportunity to manifest spirituality. Okay, you cannot say just meditate for half an hour, invoke God, and when the time comes to manifest your heart chakra, you say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. When the time comes to help someone in need, you say, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. That is not manifesting heart. You can keep on trying to stretch this guy, but without this, it doesn't open. We have learned this in pranic healing. And there's a whole science behind it, what Master has always explained. But that is another aspect. We try to, you may have met some people like this, where they are just spending time on doing the japas, the mantras, the pujas, and meditations and stuff. But when they lead their normal life, they are, broken, no heart. That's another aspect of spirituality. It is not just about crown, it is about heart, manifesting the heart first. And then, of course, crown automatically opens up. There are many other aspects. We'll probably not go there. We'll just give you a bit of hint, some of the other myths. Another myth is that, on a spiritual path, you have to be really serious. Now, I think it's a mistranslation. Being serious on the spiritual path does not mean being serious, having very depressed personality, or you are melancholic or full of drama and stuff. Not like that. Being serious on the spiritual path, actually the right phrase is being perseverant, consistent, constancy of aim and effort. Be persistently willful, keep moving forward. That is the meaning of being serious on the path, that you really make sure that you are moving forward, not that serious, you're not laughing anymore. In fact, most of you have been doing twin hearts meditation. One of the qualities of twin hearts, or the heart chakra, is humor. I've met many people, you meet them, they're so serious. Oh, I'm spiritual, I'm supposed to be like that. Hello? Without the development of happiness and the humor, you have not really developed heart chakra anyway. Not fully, at least. Develop that. See life in a way where you can smile at it. That will also give you tremendous amount of, what's the right phrase I'm looking for? I don't know, see the life in a lighter way. That will lessen your burden in a way, but that's one myth. Another one is, and I was talking to one of the students earlier in the day, it was about the food aspect of it. And this is just one example again, a smaller part, but sometimes people say, hey, somebody who eats all the kind of non-veg kind of food is not spiritual. May not be true. I have at least personally met many people who are hardcore non-vegetarians, but they're very, very nice people. Very, very nice people. And there are examples of many other saints in our own Indian tradition who were non-vegetarians as well, but they were still able to achieve something beyond which a normal human being can achieve. So there is no point in eating all healthy, sattvic kind of food, and yet what comes out of your mouth is filthy. That's what Master says. What comes out of your mouth is more important than what goes in. So there is another myth related to it. While I'm not saying that, I'm not promoting it, I'm just saying that don't just judge people based on their food and the spiritual aspect of it. What else? Spirituality is not parroting what the guru says. Very, very important aspect. Spirituality is developing a sharp, clear mind. Very, very sharp and clear mind. Now, that's why Master always, and this is the first thing you have learned in pranic healing when you come here, right? Master says, use intelligent evaluation. You are free to make your own conclusions. Do not believe blindly. But many people, again, they feel, oh, because Buddha ji has said, Master has said, or this teacher has said, that person has said, this magazine says, WhatsApp says. By the way, today WhatsApp has become the source of truth. Huh? Whatever circulates on WhatsApp is the truth. And I receive many forwards and I say, come on, are they about even thinking about their forwarding? I get really like, wow, people are really, where is their brain? So being spiritual means having a very sharp, intelligent mind. Dynamic intelligence, not the sterile intelligence. Sterile intelligence is just taking in information and absorbing it. Yeah, it becomes your truth. Dynamic intelligence is different. Dynamic intelligence means, okay, this information, okay, interesting. Can I validate? Maybe I can apply some logic there. Okay. If I cannot, I will take this as a temporary truth for now. If yes, let me find out the truth. Okay. This makes sense. I will accept this as a temporary truth again. This I don't think logically looks good. I will not spend too much time on it. Something like that. Dynamic intelligence is always evaluating and dissecting and trying to develop that virtue, the mental capacity, right? And one last thing, one final thing, and then we'll meditate. Don't worry about that. So one last thing is, and again, we have spoken about it in different times, having a lot of money is anti-spirituality. One of the biggest myths. Many people on the spiritual path, they feel, hey, you know what, if I'm having a lot of money, it means I must be the bad person here. Or other way around is people who have lots of money, they're not spiritual. Not true. Not at all true. In fact, Master says, again, I keep on quoting him because the words are very simplistic and, it gives us enough to ponder upon. Very simply, he put it, right? He said that spirituality and materialism are the two wings that are needed to fly. You cannot just fly with one wing, right? A bird needs both the wings. So if you really need to fly in the spiritual world or in the evolution, go higher, you need to have both wings. Why? Again, we'll just take another minute of yours. I mean, there can be many ways, but one of the simplest ways is, for example, if you were today thinking about all the money that you need to earn, what will I eat tomorrow morning? I don't have enough. Would you be spending time in this session and trying to understand something more deeper and which can nurture your soul and feed your soul? I promise you, you cannot, you will not. You can forget about spiritual food. Let me first feed my physical body. Having the money with you and the comfort and the security of money gives you the freedom to feed your soul. That is one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is, many spiritual people, they are somehow averse to money. In fact, it's the other way around. They're scared of. A person who is spiritual can make a much more difference. I mean, spiritual and having lots of money can make so much more difference in the world by, I don't know, by feeding people, by, I don't know, sponsoring someone's education or making somebody's life better in different ways, opening a school, opening a hospital or whatever. Imagine if Bill Gates did not give so much money, or people like Azim Premji, or, so many philanthropists have been there in the world from time, if we keep going back. If they were not there, we would not have so many beautiful things that has enabled the people who are not so privileged today to have come up in their life. So remember, always remember, never be averse to money. In fact, just to put it in a lighter way, Money Master said, money is like a woman. If you say do not like her, she will just go away. Do not say I don't like money or something like that. It's good as long as you have the right heart to use it for the right purpose. Good heart without resources is useless. You need resources to make a difference in the world. Money and all of these things give you that. Okay, so these are just some of the things. There could be many myths and stuff, but we hope we've been able to put things in perspective for you. So just be thankful, right? Be thankful, having that gratitude. And gratitude, not just you say, oh, I am grateful, and forget about it, and you waste food on your plate, or, oh, I am grateful for my relationships, but you do not spend time with your family. That is just lip service. When you're truly, truly grateful for your family, you need to spend time with them and give them the time, the emotional connect with them. When you are really grateful for the food on your plate every day, sometimes you say, oh, there are poor people in the world, they don't have a meal today, in a day to eat. I am so grateful I have 5 meals or 3 meals or 4 meals, but then you end up wasting food. It is just lip service. Some of the things might appear on the face, but you really have to reflect, examine your motives, be grateful. That is part of spirituality. Learn your lessons. That is definitely part of spirituality, and everything underneath is just part of these two. Just to put things in perspective for you in summary: gratitude, learn your lessons. If you can understand these two things, everything else, whatever we have spoken for the last about 49 minutes, is covered within this. Okay. All right. So let's meditate now. It's taken a bit longer. Well, we hope you've done your field exercises. But if not, let's do a bit of purification, bit of cleansing, and then we'll proceed to meditation from there. Close your eyes. Keep your tongue on the roof of your mouth. Normalize your breathing. Take a few deep breaths. We will first chant the mantra Om verbally. When we chant the mantra Om verbally, it helps to purify the physical and etheric bodies. So let us, it has more effect on it. It will still purify to a certain degree the emotional and the mental bodies, but predominant effect is on the physical etheric bodies. Let us chant Om. Om. Be still. Be aware of the divine energy coming down and purifying your physical etheric bodies. All the disease and dirty energies, any blockages are being dissolved, disintegrated, and flown into Mother Earth to be neutralized. Let us now whisper the Om 3 times. When we whisper the Om, the sound is barely audible, or it is only audible to you in a very, very low tone. When you whisper the Om, it has predominant effect on purifying the emotional body of emotions. Let us chant it 3 times. Be still. Be aware of the energy coming down and purifying your emotional body. All the negative emotions, negative feelings are being disintegrated and expelled into Mother Earth to be transmuted. All the anger, anxiety, any resentment is being washed away. Now, chant the mantra Om mentally 3 times. As you chant the mantra mentally, it has predominant effect on the mental body, which helps to purify the thoughts, the unwanted thoughts. It helps to quieten the monkey mind. Let us chant it 3 times mentally. Be still. Be aware of the divine energy coming down and purifying your mental body. All the negative thoughts, any unwanted thoughts, distressing thoughts, any thoughts of worry, any emotions associated with it are being disintegrated. Your mental body is being now purified. Let all these disintegrated negative thoughts and emotions go down deep into Mother Earth to be transmuted. Now raise your hands in blessing. Visualize Mother Earth in front of you. The great invocation. Be aware of your heart. Be aware of your crown, your palms, and follow me in this great invocation. From the point of light, within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of every person, every being. Let light descend on earth. Oh. From the point of love, within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of every person, every being. Let love descend on earth. May the great avatar return to earth. Om. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men. The purpose which the masters know and serve. Let goodwill and the will to do good descend on earth. Oh, oh, From the center, which we call the human race and all the other races on earth, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light, love, and power descend on earth. Let light, love, and power restore the divine plan on earth. So be it. Let us do it once again. Now this time for the first stanza, be aware of the area between your eyebrows, the Agnya Chakra. Simultaneously, be aware of the earth in front of you. The great invocation. From the point of light, within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of every person, every being. Let light descend on earth. Om. Now whisper the Om. Now mentally chant the mantra Om once. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of every person, every being. Let love descend on earth. May the world teacher return to earth. Om. Whisper the Om. Om. Mentally chant Om. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men. The purpose which the holy masters know and serve. Let goodwill and the willingness to do good descend on earth. Chant the mantra Om. Om. Now whisper the Om. Mentally chant Om. From the center which we call the human race, let the plan of love and light work out. And may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light, love, and power descend on earth. Let light, love, and power manifest, restore the divine plan on earth. So be it. One more time, we will do the great invocation. This time, be aware of your Agnya Chakra, the center of your eyebrows, and visualize 2 points of light in a triangular form. 1 point of light on your left side, 1 on the right side, connecting back to your Agnya Chakra. Form a triangle of light connected with your Agnya. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of every person, every being. Let light descend on earth. Now be aware of light coming down in the middle of your triangle, spreading to all the 3 points. Now circulate this energy 3 times clockwise, looking from above. 1, 2, and 3. And share this energy with the entire earth. Let us chant Om verbally first. Om. Now whisper the Om. Mentally chant Om. Now be aware of your forehead chakra. Visualize 2 points of light connected to your forehead. One on the left of you, one on the right, connecting back to your forehead. This is the triangle of love. Be aware that your triangle is not the only triangle. It is connected with a very vast network of the triangles covering the entire planet Earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of every person, every being. Let love descend on earth. May Christ return to earth. Be aware of the energy of love coming in the middle of your triangle and spreading throughout your triangle. Now circulate this energy 3 times clockwise, looking from above. 1, 2, and 3. And share this energy with the entire earth. Om. Whisper the Om. Mentally chant Om. Now be aware of your crown chakra, the top of your head, and form a triangle of goodwill, the will to do good and the will to sacrifice. Connected with 2 other points of light, one on your left, one on your right, connected to your crown chakra. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men. The purpose which the holy masters know and serve. Let goodwill and the willingness to do good descend on earth. Now be aware of the energy of goodwill coming down in the middle of your triangle and spreading throughout your triangle. Now circulate this energy 3 times clockwise, looking from above. 1, 2, and 3. And share this energy with the entire earth. Om. Whisper. Mentally chant.
from the center, which we call the human race, the angelic race, and all the other races on earth. Let the plan of love be aware of your forehead and light, Agnya, work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Om. Let light, love, and power restore the plan on earth. So be it, so be it, so be it. Let us chant Om 3 times, starting from the crown, to anchor the energies. Forehead. Agnya. Blessings be to all. Blessings be to all. The whole of Mother Earth be blessed with love, with peace, with happiness, with forgiveness, with the spirit of reconciliation, with harmony and divine peace. So be it. May every person, every being be blessed. May all the sentient beings in the higher world, middle worlds, lower worlds, in all the dimensions, in all directions be blessed, without exception, with peace, with love, with healing, with happiness, with joy. So be it. May whole of Mother Earth be blessed with progress. Every person, every being be blessed. May all those who are suffering physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, in their relationships, any which ways, in any part of the world, may they be blessed, may they be healed, may they be blessed with compassionate, purifying light and soothing, healing energies. So be it. Visualize the aura of the earth turning pink and gold. Send the energies of love and peace throughout Mother Earth, deep into Mother Earth, in the ground below you, in the entire city that you live in. And let these energies of peace and love spread throughout Mother Earth. May these energies of peace and love go deep inside and transmute the past energies of conflict, of violence and hatred. And may these energies of peace and love come out again. The entire land on Mother Earth be filled with peace and love. So be it. May these energies of peace and love and forgiveness and harmony soothe the paining hearts, the weary eyes of the soul. May every person, every being be blessed, be filled with the energies of peace, love, happiness, joy, bliss, with goodwill and the will to do good. So be it. May every person on earth be blessed with generosity, with loving kindness, with mature honesty, with moderation. May the resources of Mother Earth be properly distributed throughout the planet. The money, the minerals, all the other proper resources. So be it. May all the farmers of our country be blessed. May their crops be blessed, be healed. May they get right financial support and help, all the proper fertilizers and all the help that they need. So be it. May all the leaders of our country and the whole of Indian subcontinent be blessed. Not just the political leaders, but leaders of all the different industries. May they be blessed with wisdom, with love. Wisdom is the higher aspect of love. May they be blessed with wisdom to do what is right and to refrain from any unwholesome actions and behaviors. May they be blessed with a kind and generous heart. So be it. May the whole of Afghanistan be blessed with tremendous peace. So be it. May the whole of Asia be blessed. May the whole of Middle East be blessed. The whole of Africa be blessed. May the whole of Europe be blessed. May North and South America be blessed. May Australia and New Zealand and the entire oceanic region be blessed. So be it. May there be peace in everybody's heart. So be it. May all the pranic healers and arahatic yogis throughout the world be blessed. And their families be blessed. So be it. May all of you be blessed. May you and your families be blessed with good health, happiness, with prosperity and abundance, with spirituality, harmony and divine peace. So be it. May you be blessed with hope and with faith, and with an inner knowing of the great life ahead. May you be blessed with gratitude, resilience, the inner strength and courage. May all your wishes be blessed. Those who have written down their Kriya Shaktis or wishes, bring them forward physically or in your mind. Those who have not written also, it's okay. You can bring your wishes forward in your mind. And be aware that not just your wishes, but you also are going to bless the wishes of others. It is in giving that we receive. It is said that when you wish for others, you don't need to ask for anything for yourself. That is the secret of manifestation and materializing what you need in your life. May all your wishes be blessed. All your rightful needs be met for the rest of your lifetimes. May you be blessed with good health, with warm, loving relationships, with tremendous prosperity and abundance, with healing on all levels, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, in every aspect, in every level. May these blessings of the Supreme God, Mahaguruji Meling, Master Choa Kok Sui, and all the higher beings be manifested now, now, now. So be it. So be it. And so it is. Om. Amen. Amen. Tathastu, and so it is. To the Supreme God, to the Divine Father, Divine Mother, to Lord Mahaguruji Meling, to Master Choa Kok Sui, to all the great ones, all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, spiritual helpers, and all the great ones, we thank you for your priceless blessings. Thank you. In full faith, we thank you. You may gently open your eyes with a big, big smile. All right. We hope you had a wonderful meditation. Now, first of all, of course, thank you for being here and contributing to the energies and the blessings. After the meditation, please make sure you do your physical exercises so that you can release any excess energy that your body cannot handle, or to further assimilate the energies in your whole system. Okay. So thank you once again. We end the session here. I can extend for a few minutes in case somebody has any questions. Those who want to stay for another 5-10 minutes, you're very welcome. But overall, the session is ended here. Thank you once again. Namaste to all of you, and we'll see you next time. Good night. Take care.